Hey guys, thanks for joining me. Today we're going to do a PvP guide for the Jedi Sentinel class combat discipline. This will be the go-to beginner's guide for proficiencies, rotations, and some core basics. If you like what you see, please like and sub, but as always, let's get to it. So we're going to start off with some combat proficiencies here and go over some utility points. I'm not going to cover it all, but I would suggest that you take a good look at all this stuff on your own time and just kind of get a good feel for the class. There's a lot to cover in this and I won't be able to cover it all. So let's start with Lance. It's one of your strongest abilities that you have, and it will actually prevent high mobility escapes and actions such as force speed or even force leap. It's a very good ability. Ataru form increases your alacrity by 3%. It also gives you a 20% chance to trigger a strike, a second strike that is, for a little bit of extra damage. You have Ataru Mastery, increases your damage dealt by Ataru form attacks by 5%. Blade Rush, you'll be using this ability mainly to stack centering, but it is a pretty decent attack and it always triggers an Ataru strike. And it also gives you an extra 30% chance to trigger Ataru strike for 6 seconds after you use Blade Rush. And as you can see here, 20%, 30%, that means you'll have 50% chance to trigger an Ataru strike. Righteous Zeal, you reduce the cooldown of Zealous Strike by 3 seconds. If you don't know what Zealous Strike is, this is what you'll be using to build a lot of focus, and you need focus to be able to do your attacks. So Excise, you'll be using this with your, it's a passive for your Lance. Your Lance will sunder the opponent for 45 seconds, reducing their armor by 20%. Very nice. Opportune Attack, keep in mind this is an important passive. You will, whenever you deal damage with your Ataru strike, you will be making Clashing Blast deal 5% more damage. Clashing Blast is one of your stronger abilities, so just keep that in mind. See here, Precision will increase your armor penetration by 100% for 3 seconds. And you can usually get off 3 abilities in those 3 seconds, and I'll show you which abilities to get off. This is what you're going to be basing a lot of your rotations and burst rotations off of. So Immaculate Force, your Opportune Attack is going to increase a critical chance of Clashing Blast by 100%. So not only will this deal 5% more damage, but it also critically hit. Very cool. Saber Screen increases your damage reduction for each Ataru strike by 2%, stacks up 3 times. You have Hand of Justice, which keep in mind this is something that you have to take a look at and keep an eye for. Whenever you Ataru strike, it'll trigger this Hand of Justice, and it'll finish the cooldown of Dispatch, and it'll also allow Dispatch to be used at any health level without consuming any focus, and it can only be triggered every 20 seconds. So if you don't know, Dispatch is one of the stronger abilities you have. It can only be used at 30% max health. So this Hand of Justice will allow you to use that on anybody, but it only triggers every 20, it goes on cooldown for 20 seconds, so you really need to use this ability within 20 seconds. Very short time. Actually it can feel like a very short time. So Clashing Blast, as we went over. This increases your damage reduction. We have Saber Storm, which increases your critical strike damage on Blade Rush and Clashing Blast by 15%. So Blade Rush right here, it's a pretty good ability, doesn't consume any force. But as I said, Clashing Blast already critically hits, already has 5% more damage from Opportune Attack. This gives it 15% more damage on your critical strike. So this Clashing Blast is probably going to be your strongest ability, or maybe second strongest next to Dispatch. It all depends on your rotation. So utility points, like I said, you can pick what you want on this for the most part, but if this is your first time ever getting a feel for the class, just go with what I have here. Take a look later and just play around with it, but because Jedi Sentinel, this class right here, I was very surprised when I picked up this class. Most classes, they have a lot of junk, and you don't really use a lot of the utilities. But with this class, you can choose a lot of different stuff, and it's going to be very useful in different situations. So, but let's go over what I chose. Jedi Enforcer increases damage dealt by rebuke by 15% and increases the duration by 4 seconds. So if you don't know what rebuke is, reduces all damage by 20% and deals some damage back to them. So dealing more damage back and increasing duration, I like that. Stoic increases your damage reduction and it builds centering every time somebody attacks you. Very nice. Well, not every time, but between every 1.5 seconds. So we have Masterful. Ardor Transcendence no longer requires or consumes centering. Will go on cooldown for 3 seconds when activated. If you don't know what Transcendence is, it'll grant you and your nearby allies 50% movement speed and grant you guys melee range defense buff for 10%. Last 10 seconds. So very good. And this usually consumes centering. We'll go over that in a bit. But if you choose this, it won't require any centering. And having more movement speed is very helpful in combat. I went with defensive role. Like I said, you can go with different things. But this is good for PvP. Reduces damage of area effects, internal damage, and elemental damage. Fleet-footed with the Transcendence as well. It'll purge movement impaired effects, and it'll also increase the movement speed of Transcendence by 30%, which it's already 50%. You're bumping it up to 80%. It's a very good one to go with. If you're going to go with Ardor, always go fleet-footed. We have Enduring. Increases the duration of guarded by a force by 2 seconds and reduces the cooldown by 30 seconds. So if you don't know what guarded by the force is, take a good look. It makes you a god. Reduces the damage that you take by 99% for 6 seconds. So you're a god for 6 seconds, right? You definitely want to increase that duration and decrease the cooldown. That's a no-brainer. So with the legendary utilities, please keep in mind all these utilities are pretty freaking awesome. I like every single one of them. Yeah, I went with these two. I mean, you can only choose 2. So I went with Zealous Judgment, and it refunds some focus with Dispatch. But it also the main point of taking this is for the Pacify. Pacify will activate or grant you Zealous Judgment, increasing your force and tech resistance by 75% for 6 seconds. And the reason you want that, see, look, Pacify reduces melee and ranged accuracy of your opponent by 90% for 6 seconds. So for 6 seconds, they have virtually no accuracy. And you have 75% resistance. It's pretty strong. You get a lot of resistance and you reduce their accuracy. And this comes up every 1 minute. It's nice. So I went with Intercessor. You can go with different stuff. Like I said, Intercessor allows you to use Force Leap a second time, and it allows Force Leap to build centering. I like this just because as a Sentinel, and you know his melee, well, you'll find out if you haven't played it, that you need to be in their face all the time. And so movement speed with Transcendence is good. You want to get close to them because you can get kited easily in PvP. And so if you can Force Leap to them, the more you can Force Leap to them, the better you can get to them. And you can also use this for Hutball. You can use it for all different sorts of things. So it's very good to have more Force Leaps. But that seems to cover utilities, combat proficiencies. Let's jump into rotations. So first of all, I just want to say thank you all for sticking with me this long. This is going to be a longer video than usual, and the reason for that is Sentinel is just a very skillful class. It has a lot to cover. And so let's go over centering first. We talked about that combat proficiencies. It's a very important thing. So what centering is when you use certain attacks, it'll build centering, stacks of centering. And at 30 stacks, you'll be able to use 3 abilities. Zen, Transcendence, and Inspiration. Now if you picked Ardor and Utilities like I did, you'll be able to use Transcendence anytime, and it has a 30-second cooldown. Inspiration is a raid buff, and it's very useful to increase the amount of damage and healing done for your team. But Zen is going to be used for your burst rotations, your main rotation. And at 30 stacks, it'll increase the alacrity that you have by 30%. And that'll be for 6 attacks. So your next 6 attacks have 30% alacrity boost. But Zen's only up for 20 seconds. But that's more than enough time to get 6 attacks off of, especially with your alacrity being boosted. So what the alacrity does on a Sentinel is it increases or decreases the cooldown on your abilities. It's not like a Sage where it would decrease the channeling time. So, and you want to decrease the cooldown on your abilities because of precision. It has such a short window that 3 seconds of armor penetration, you can actually fit 3 abilities in that 3 seconds if you use them fast enough. And that Zen will allow you to use them fast enough. So what our rotation is going to be is Zen, Precision, Lance, Dispatch, and Clashing Blast. That's 5 abilities. So you want to use Zen to get the alacrity, Precision to get the armor penetration, and then you want to use Lance, Dispatch, and Clashing Blast as fast as possible within those 3 seconds. Otherwise you'll be losing damage on one of your abilities, one or more. So I'm just going to show you, and I'm going to use Valorous Call to get those 30 stacks immediately. Like I said, the centering, if you use it, it'll actually stay up for quite some time. It has a whole minute, so as long as you can have that on for a while. I'm going to get some focus here, and once I have enough focus, I can show you what I'm talking about. Zen, Precision, Lance, Dispatch, Clashing Blast. And that's your basic rotation. Now if you think, oh, 3 abilities, that's not a whole lot of damage, but just go back and look at how much damage I actually did. And I just have like tier 1 gear, it's not even a whole lot. So this right here, one more thing, if you have, and I want to pull it up, if you have 2 pieces of tier 1 or more gear, you will have the 2% damage increase for 15 seconds after using Zealous Strike. So try using Zealous Strike maybe after Zen if you want, or before Zen, to have that damage increase by 2%. You can increase the amount of damage that you do in that rotation. Now, to build stacks of centering without using Valorous Call, it's pretty simple. You want focus, and you just use Blade Rush as much as you can. See how it's building stacks right here? It's going to build stacks pretty quickly, but it uses quite a bit of focus, so just keep that in mind. Now, one thing, let me build it up, there we go. One thing that I want you to really think about is if you go stoic in utilities like I do, this is going to build a lot faster. People are going to attack you, it's going to build stacks. So you're not just going to be relying on Blade Rush. It takes a while to build it yourself if you don't have Stoic. So go Stoic, and you'll actually get those stacks of centering much faster, and you'll be able to do your combo. But other than that, yeah, that's it. Zealous Strike is going to help you build focus. You need that focus for Blade Rush to be able to get the centering. You need the centering for Zen, and use Zen. And look, Zen stays up for 20 seconds. So for 20 seconds, you can click Zen, maybe do 1 or 2 abilities. If you haven't got your Hand of Justice, so you can't use your Dispatch right away, you can use Zen first, and then once Hand of Justice is up, you can do your full rotation: Precision, Lance, Dispatch, and Clashing Blast, and that'll finish your rotation out. So don't worry too much about using Zen right before Precision. You don't have to, but it is recommended. Also to just end things up, let's go over some defensive abilities. You have Transcendence, like I said. It'll increase the movement speed of you and your allies by 50%. Now I actually have that 30% additional in my utilities, so that's 80% movement speed you're seeing right there. That's like a little mini raid buff, if you may ask anybody. But we went over Guarded by the Force, Rebuke, we went over that, and but we didn't go over Force Camouflage. Force Camouflage will reduce all your damage that you take by 50%, and it'll also give you some movement speed, and it'll make you stealth so nobody can see you. It's very nice, and I don't think that's interrupted by damage. I've had people do damage to me and it doesn't show them where I'm at. So it's unlike a normal stealth that you would have on a shadow. Saber Ward, it raises your melee range defense by 50% and it lets you absorb 25% of the damage taken by force and tech attacks. It lasts for 12 seconds, and but it has a long cooldown, 3 minutes. So be very sparing about when you use this. Don't just use it because you're rushing into the battle. No, use it when you're getting mowed down by a merc or an operative or something. Just use it sparingly. It's very good defensive ability, and you can actually make this even better in the legendary combat proficiencies, and it'll remove stuns and stuff. So yeah, take a good look at this. It's a really good ability. You have Pacify, like I told you, decreases the ranged accuracy, ranged and melee accuracy by 90% for 6 seconds, and it also, if you have the combat proficiency, Zealous Judgment, you can increase your tech and your resistance against attacks by 75% for 6 seconds. So if your healer is getting mowed down by somebody, you can actually just reduce their accuracy and peel for your healer a little bit. It's really good to use for that. Force Stasis will help lock down somebody for 4 seconds. Very good. Leg Slash, very good for Hutball and other things, where it'll actually reduce the movement speed of your opponent by 50% for 10 seconds, and it'll also reduce the amount of healing they receive by 20% as well. So if somebody has, let's say they have the Hutball and they're headed toward your goal, you can actually slow them down by 50% and reduce the healing they receive, so that guy's going to go down pretty quick. Very good to use. Very good. You can spam that ability if you need to. Very good to use. Good to use before your rotation as well. So thanks again for sticking with me through this whole thing. There's just one more thing to cover. I just wanted to say, don't let your failures weigh you down. If you're a new Sentinel player, or let's say you played it and you had no luck before in the past, just remember, Sentinel is not an easy class. Not at all. It's a very skillful class, and it takes some time to learn. It takes time to learn the rotations. Time to get good at the rotations. Get those 3 abilities out in that short amount of time, especially in the middle of battle. It's very difficult, and also you have to be very familiar about when to use which defensive ability, and just be sparingly with those abilities as well, and just get the feel for it. You need a lot more experience if you want to be an advanced Sentinel player, if I could say. But if you like this guide, please like and sub, and if you want to see more, or if you want to see a more advanced guide with some of these classes, just let me know in the comments below. But without further ado, let's jump into PvP.
Tell me, can you see the stars? We're just running forward in the dark. You knew just what my soul needed. 2 hearts, we share the same beating. Is this what it feels like? Coming back to real, coming back to real life. Keep me in the same dream. Know what I'm missing, things so still wide awake. Only come out at night, but we're still looking for signs. When I wake up, oh, I can't help but to wonder, is this even real? Know what I'm missing, things so still wide awake. Only come out at night, but we're still looking for signs. When I wake up, oh, I can't help but to wonder, is this even real? Is this even real? step I take is in the dark. You knew just what my soul needed. The only thing that kept my heart beating. Is this what it feels like? Coming back to it, coming back to real life. Give me the same now what I'm missing things, so still wide awake. I only come out at night, but we're still looking for signs. When I wake up, oh, I can't help but to wonder. Is this even real? Now what I'm missing things, so still wide awake. I only come out at night, but we're still looking for signs. When I wake up, oh, I can't help but to wonder. Is this even real?
We are people down foot when the sun goes down. We are people down foot when the sun goes down. We are people down foot when the sun goes down. We are people down foot when the sun goes down. When the sun goes down. We are people down foot when the sun goes down. We are people down foot when the sun goes down. We are people down foot when the sun goes down. We are people down foot when the sun goes down. When the sun goes down. She been in your bedroom, I know that. Feeling her on your skin. Think I don't know where your head's at. Where do I begin? Wrapping your fingers around her. Late at night, drinking. You let it linger, you couldn't quit. I think I'll leave it all behind. Love be a new one. I won't waste my time. Fuck it with you. Oh, let me show you how. Find me another. You can't break me down. Under the covers. Touch just to break it. You thought that I would need it back, but you didn't know that I faked it. No tears, no heart attack. Leave it all behind. Love be a new one. I won't waste my time. Fuck it with you. Oh, let me show you how. Find me another. You can't break me down. Under the covers. Just to break it. You thought that I would need it back, but you didn't know that I faked it. No tears, no heart attack. Slow it down, speed it up now. Like it with the lights down low. Moon bright, sipping on skin. Liquor, thicker. Pour it in my cup like the fucking Big Dipper. Do you like it with the lights down low? Then you gotta pour a little quicker. Maybe I sleep, I'm falling overboard. Oh, I've been up 2 nights crashing on your floor. Something tells me that I'll never leave you. No good to me, I'm on my knees, boy, but I still say please. Need you on me now. Got me under your control. Every night I'll be back, slipping, tripping. I will got me under your control. I will be all that you've been missing.